Your lungs are supposed to be inside your body, not outside, not in pieces, not scattered across a trench while you're still technically alive. August 6, 1915, Osowiec Fortress, Western Russian Empire. About 900 Russian soldiers hold an important choke point against the German army. They've been outnumbered 10-1 for months, but they still held through 2 major assaults already, thanks to the trenches they dug up around the fortress. But now, the Germans are tired of asking nicely. 4 a.m., artillery fire is heard by the Russian soldiers. Standard morning wake-up call on the Eastern Front, honestly. The Russians brace and duck into their trenches. They've heard this symphony before, twice. It wasn't easy both times. Then the wind shifts. Green fog rolls across no man's land. Slow, deliberate. The kind of color that doesn't exist in natural air for a reason. It's chlorine gas released by the Germans, a new invention. The kind of progress that makes you wonder if maybe we shouldn't have invented things. 'Cause here's how chlorine works. It touches moisture, any moisture, and it becomes hydrochloric acid. Your eyes are moist, your throat is moist, the soft pink tissue of your lungs, yeah, very much moist. And the rest of the human body is just, a mere 60% water. So, yeah, the Russians knew they were fucked. The only thing that could save you from turning into an organic acid soup would be a gas mask. The Russians had no gas masks, hadn't even heard of gas masks. Some grabbed cloth, soaked it in water, and wrapped it around their faces as a makeshift mask. Others used their urine instead because someone remembered reading that it might help. The ammonia in urine can neutralize chlorine. Good chemistry. Didn't work. Not enough ammonia. Not enough time. Within minutes, 900 men were on the ground, burning. First, their eyes. Not metaphorical burning, actual chemical burn. Corneas blistering. Vision going white, then red as blood vessels rupture. Men clawing at their faces, trying to stop the pain that was inside their eyeballs. They'd try to shut their eyes tightly, but soon there were no eyelids to close, and no eyes to protect. They had melted right out of the eye sockets. Then their throat, tissue dissolving. They'd try to scream, but the vocal cords are melting, just wet, gurgling sounds. And then their lungs. This is the part that takes time. Chlorine turns the moisture in your lungs into acid, your own body liquefying itself from the inside, alveoli rupturing, fluid filling the space where air should be. You're not suffocating from lack of oxygen. You're drowning in your own blood and dissolving lung tissue. Every breath pulled acid deeper. Every scream pushed chunks of dissolved lung tissue out through what used to be their mouths. The ones near the back lasted longest, got to listen to everyone in front of them drown in their own liquefied organs. An hour later, German soldiers put on their gas masks and walked into the fortress, curious to see what their chemistry experiment had accomplished. Young soldiers who'd never seen chemical warfare up close, staring at what their side had done. Bodies everywhere, twisted, cloth pressed to faces that were no longer faces, eyes cooked into something resembling grounded raw meat, staring up, unable to close because the eyelids had burned away. One German soldier would later write that the smell wasn't the worst part. The silence was. They marched deeper, congratulating themselves, maybe even a high five or two. Another successful morning at the office. Time to report back and get those medals. Maybe even a promotion and a raise. But then, the bodies started coughing. Not all of them. Maybe 60. Enough. The dead stood up. Skin hanging off in strips where the acid had won, revealing the skeleton underneath. Blood pouring from eyes, noses, and mouths, and with every cough, visible pieces of lungs spraying out. pink foam, tissue fragments, the contents of a human respiratory system seeking fresh air. They picked up their rifles. The Germans did what any rational person would do when corpses start loading weapons. They ran. The dead men charged, lungs gone, vision gone, operating on something beyond pain, beyond survival instinct, just movement, just forward. The Russian artillery, literally zombies at this point, opened fire. Germans fled into their own barbed wire, impaled themselves trying to escape, trampled each other. Hundreds died, running from maybe 60 Russians who were, medically speaking, already dead. The fortress held. Lieutenant Vladimir Kotlinski led the charge, took a bullet during the counterattack, bled out that evening, which was probably a mercy considering his lungs were essentially acid soup at that point. He was just 21. They gave him a medal posthumously, the Order of St. George, which you can't wear when you're dead. But hey, it's the gesture that matters. The 60 or so Russians who survived the gas died within days, weeks if they were unlucky. 'Cause even if by some miracle any of them made some sort of recovery, it's too late to stop the chlorine that has already been dissolved in the blood and has circulated in the entire body a couple hundred times. The Russians abandoned Osowiec 2 weeks later anyway. Strategic retreat, they called it. The fortress was never taken by force, which sounds impressive until you remember that the men who defended it spent their last conscious moments coughing up their own dissolved organs and charging into machine gun fire, because dying faster seemed preferable. They were already dead. They just forgot to stop. Human beings are incredibly difficult to kill, and somehow even harder to stop. So, what defeated 7,000 German soldiers? Technically, 60 Russians with liquefied lungs. Realistically, the absolute cosmic horror of realizing that sometimes human beings simply refuse to die. Like, the Germans did the math right, yeah? Chlorine plus moisture equals hydrochloric acid. Human body is 60% water. Boom. Death. Clean equation. Except they forgot that humans are the only species that can know they're dying and just not care. Like, you guys have this weird override switch where if someone pisses you off enough, biology becomes optional. Because here's the thing about humans. They're not supposed to survive chlorine gas. They're not supposed to stand up after their lungs liquefy. And they're definitely not supposed to charge with rifles after coughing up pieces of their own respiratory system. But supposed to has never stopped them before. I mean, just look at how far you guys have come. And that's what terrifies people about this story. Not the gas, not the gore. It's that those 60 Russians had a choice. They could have stayed down, should have stayed down. Their lungs were outside their bodies in aerosol form. But somewhere in between drowning in their own dissolved organs and watching the Germans walk in and admire their work, they made a decision that's honestly kind of beautiful and absolutely unhinged at the same time. They chose violence over relief. Because here's what the history books won't tell you. Dying is actually pretty easy. It's the most normal, natural thing in the world. Your body wants to shut down when it's that damaged. Every nerve is screaming, "Stop, please, just stop." But these guys looked at that impulse, that biological imperative to just let go and be done with the pain, and said, "Nah, not yet, not without revenge." And yeah, that's the part that breaks people's brains. They invented chemical weapons because they thought they'd found the limit, the thing that overrides human will. But will isn't in your lungs. It's not in your eyes or your throat or any part of your body that chlorine can dissolve. It's in that stupid, stubborn, absolutely irrational part of your brain that says, if I'm going out, I'm taking you with me. The Germans ran because they just discovered something way scarier than death. That rage can outlast biology. That spite is somehow more endurable than lung tissue. So what really won that battle? Not tactics, not bravery, just the psychological warfare of watching corpses reload rifles. The existential horror of realizing your enemy has moved past caring about survival and entered pure fuck you mode. You can't negotiate with that. You can't out-strategize it. You just run. Those Russians still died, days later, drowning slowly in whatever was left of their respiratory systems. The gas won eventually. Chemistry always wins. But for like 10 minutes? 10 glorious, horrifying, absolutely batshit minutes, human stubbornness beat the periodic table. That's not heroism. That's not even survival instinct. That's just your species going, "Oh, you think that's my limit? Cute. Watch this. You are the only animal that can be functionally dead and still hold a grudge." Turns out the hardest thing to kill isn't the body. It's the refusal to stop. It's the will to get back up and march forward, even if you're literally crumbling from the inside out. Remember those soldiers the next time you don't want to get out of bed. Ever get demoted at work? Yeah, me too. Sucks, right? Now imagine getting demoted from Emperor of Rome to footstool. Literally. Valerian ruled the Roman Empire from 253 to 260 AD. That's supposed to be a good job, one where people bow to you, not the other way around. But in 260, the Persian king Shapur I started chewing through Roman territory. So Valerian decided to handle it personally. March in, wave some swords around, be home for dinner. But the Persians had other plans. At the Battle of Edessa, Shapur's army didn't just beat the Romans, they captured the emperor, the actual emperor, aka Valerian. Shapur couldn't believe his luck. He'd just acquired the most powerful man in the Western world as a pet, and he treated him accordingly. Every time Shapur wanted to mount his horse, he'd summon Valerian. The Emperor of Rome would get on all fours like a dog, or a cat, or a... never mind. All animals walk on fours. Most of them, anyway. Moving on. Shapur would step on his back, use him as a step stool, then ride off while Valerian stayed there on the ground, contemplating how quickly a title stops mattering when someone's boot is on your spine. But that's just daily routine. Shapur also paraded him around, a walking advertisement of His Highness's greatness. Look what I, Almighty Shapur, the first of his name, brought back from Rome. Valerian went from issuing decrees to being the decor. Then Valerian tried negotiating, offered a mountain of gold for his release. Shapur loved the idea, except the mountain of gold would be molten, and Valerian would be released from existing. He melted the gold, forced it down Valerian's throat. Molten metal, the kind that doesn't cool before it reaches your stomach, burning through tissue, sealing your airway, cooking you from the inside as your body tries to process the fact that it's being filled with liquid fire and then solidifying. But you'd be long dead before having trouble ingesting tons of solid gold anyway. But Shapur wasn't done. He had Valerian's skin stuffed, preserved, displayed it like a hunting trophy. Guests would visit, and Shapur would gesture proudly at the thing that used to make executive decisions. And here's what Rome never taught its emperors. Power isn't a substance you possess. It's a story people agree to believe. The moment that story stops, you're just skin wrapped around organs, same as everyone else. Valerian spent years thinking that the title made him untouchable, took one lost battle to learn that emperor is just a word, and words don't stop arrows, or lava metal from cooking you from the inside in this case. Want to know what happens when peasants realize they've been lied to? Well, Gheorghe Doja was a decorated Hungarian soldier recruited in 1514 to lead a peasant crusade against the Ottoman Empire. Standard medieval outsourcing, am I right? Get the poor people to fight your wars. Except these peasants collectively arrived at an interesting conclusion mid-recruitment. Wait, why are we marching hundreds of miles to fight the Turks when the people actively ruining our lives sleep like 20 minutes away? So they changed targets, from Ottomans to local landlords. Doja, sympathetic to people trying their best to exist under feudalism, led them. They burned estates, slaughtered nobles, took castles. For a few months, it actually worked. Then János Szapolyai, a Hungarian noble with resources and a functioning army, crushed them. Doja was captured, and Szapolyai wanted to send a message. They heated an iron throne until it glowed. Not warm, not uncomfortable, molecularly angry metal, molten almost. Then forced Doja onto it. His flesh started cooking immediately. The kind of heat that doesn't just burn skin, it renders fat, splits tissue, makes your body a kitchen. While he sat there, biochemically dissolving into the furniture, they placed a red-hot iron crown on his skull, then a matching scepter in his hand. A little coronation for the peasant king. But here's where it gets educational. They brought in 9 of his starving followers. They hadn't eaten in days, bodies already cannibalizing themselves for fuel. Then they pulled out heated pliers, tore chunks of cooked flesh off of Doja's body, who was still alive by the way, and presented his men with a totally rational deal. Eat your leader or die. Imagine that. You're starving. The guy you followed, who promised liberation, is now a buffet. Refusal means immediate dismemberment. Compliance means surviving with the memory that you consumed the one person who tried to save you. Some ate, some refused and got turned into, examples, let's just say. Doja stayed conscious through it. Hours of being cooked and meal. His body serving a purpose, just not the one he'd planned. He did die eventually, obviously I mean. Szapolyai became the king of Hungary. The peasants who ate went home with functioning digestive systems and non-functioning sleep schedules. Here's the thing about making examples. It's never about the individual. Doja's execution wasn't punishment, it was theater. Szapolyai didn't just want him gone, he wanted every peasant in Hungary to internalize a lesson. Your bodies aren't yours. Your suffering is a policy tool, and if you resist, we'll make you complicit in destroying what you love. That's how you kill a revolution, not by defeating it, but by forcing its participants to devour it, making resistance inseparable from guilt, so the survivors police themselves forever. Doja spent months trying to burn down feudalism, and Szapolyai just spent one afternoon burning him.